Hey, this is Marc Goldberg from Marc Vlogs Watches, and today I want to talk about the illness that is our hobby, horology, watch collecting. You know, if we weren't doing this, we'd probably be in the bathroom washing our hands 20 times a day. We would probably be avoiding cracks on the floor. We would probably be bringing our own silverware, wrapped in plastic to a restaurant, just like in that movie with what's his name? Jack Nicholson. I forget the name of the movie, but you know what I'm talking about? Anyway, if you don't, forget it. We're going to talk about sickness. We're going to talk about illness. We're going to talk about OCD, and we're going to talk about how that relates to Rolex. But first, we have a quick fist watch check, and here it is. Today, guys, I am wearing the Polar Explorer. Looks really good with this kind of green sweater. I think you people in the UK call it a jumper. As you can see in Chicago, the snow is slowly beginning to melt, and the end of the polar age is soon approaching. Okay, let's get into the meat and potatoes of this mental illness. Now, guys, here's the thing. I am probably just as OCD as all of you, okay? So when I look at my Seiko turtle and the bezel misaligns slightly on the paddy, I set it between clicks, so I do my own self-alignment treatment. Fortunately, on my Seiko Blue Lagoon, the bezel aligns correctly and I don't have to really do anything in there. But there are some of you who take this to the point where you do modifications, like you'll take apart Random Rob and Fernando, from collecting vintage watches. These are guys who, listen, super respectos, because these guys, if they don't like the way their watch is functioning, they will take it apart and fix it and put it back together again. But, I'm the kind of guy who really should not be entrusted with power tools, and I should not use sharp objects around my watches, okay? Because I'm not good at it. Actually, I remember once trying to fix a car many moons ago, and I wound up with like extra parts left over, and I never did figure out what they were supposed to be for, but the car still ran. Guys, we're gonna have to get a handle on this. So recently I received a direct message over Instagram, and I will drop my Instagram address in right here because I do respond to people there, and I wish you would follow me. I hope you will. But I received a question from a follower, a gentleman, a subscriber named Old Hoot Owl on Instagram, and here was his problem. He registered for a Submariner date. It has come in. His authorized dealer has called him and told him, that his watch is now available. So what's the problem? This should be a moment of great joy and celebration. He and his credit card should get polished up, dressed up, gussied up, and run on over there right around cocktail time. Well, what's the problem? Well, Old Hoot Owl is having second thoughts, and here are the problems that are running through his mind. Here is the degree to which the sickness has overtaken him. Okay. First, he's concerned that at Baselworld, a new version of the Submariner will be introduced with a new movement, and if he has the old movement, he'll be sad. Second, it has dawned on him that the crown, that the coronet on the crown does not align when it's in the screwed in position, and that I will drop a picture of in right here. Third, it has occurred to him that on the rehaut, the engraving where the coronet is on the inside of the watch, that it does not line up completely at the 12 o'clock position. And I'm going to drop a picture of that right in here. What do I have to say to Old Hoot Owl about this? Well, first of all, Old Hoot Owl, bite me. Okay, just freaking bite me. Why am I so upset? Well, because that with the rehaut, I didn't know it, and now I do, and I kind of have to ignore it, on my own watch. So, just bite me for that. But let's go back and talk about this briefly. Guys, we got to get a grip. We got to get a handle on this. If you can't tolerate a flaw, an annoyance, an irritation, an imperfection, if you can't tolerate anything that deviates from your mentally ill perspective of complete perfection, then you have no business wearing a watch. You should just like duct tape your iPhone to your wrist. And if you're carrying an Android, well, that's the equivalent of wearing a Seiko, so you could duct tape that to your wrist. But listen, here's the reality of it. Nothing is perfect. My answer to old Hoot Owl was as follows. First of all, the Rehot engraving you're never going to look at, and if you can't stop staring at it, then you have deeper mental problems than as relates to just Rolex. As far as the movement goes, listen, if it's about to become extinct, if you are about to buy the last of a dying breed, that's a good thing, all right? What that means is you're getting like the last one. Imagine having the last dinosaur. Somebody is willing to sell you like the last Triceratops ever born. Don't you want to buy it? So I think, we have to like not worry too much about progress. If you can't stand to wear last year's watch, well, you're going to be trading them in constantly. I'm recording this on an iPhone 8 Plus that I have owned for a year and a half. And this is the first time that I feel that the iPhone got good enough as to where I didn't need to trade it in every year. Now in the fall of this year, they will introduce the new line, and I will probably pass on that one too. So I will probably end up owning my iPhone for probably like 3 years before I ever trade it in. Now, some of you are saying, well, big whoop, I keep an iPhone 6-7 years. Well, probably you don't really, because they've only been out about that long, right? But you know what I'm talking about here. So my real piece of advice is, don't worry about the new movement. If you have the opportunity to buy the last of a dying breed, well, it's a Rolex. You should absolutely jump on it. Maybe its value later will be greater. And that was another thing he was worried about. He goes like, I don't want to pay $9,000 for something that's not perfect. Well, my advice to old Hoot Owl could be summed up as follows. I told him to give his Rolex a break the same way he gives a break to the imperfections in his own Willie. Okay? Like, nothing is perfect except for me, but that's like, did I just bang that? Except for that's a whole different story that we're not going to discuss. This is a family-rated channel. But you know what I'm talking about. There's flaws in everything, in your body, in your partner, in in everything. But on balance, some things are beautiful and wonderful, and Rolex is definitely one of those things. So listen, I don't know why that coronet doesn't, it's off like maybe 0.5 millimeter in terms of the Rehot. And as far as why the coronet doesn't line up on the crown, well, I suppose that has to do with screwing it in, and they never know exactly where you're going to stop. And some people hit the lottery on that. Which, by the way, have you hit the lottery on that? Does your coronet line up either on your Rehot or on the crown of your Rolex? Tell me about that in the comments. Oh, also, please like this video, subscribe, turn on the bell, do all that stuff so we can meet up and talk about our particular brand of crazy again. So look, I'm going to do a little bit of a sum up. We're coming up on Baselworld 2019, but this really applies to any cycle in terms of buying a Rolex. If you find something you like, buy it. Don't worry about what's coming next. Don't worry about what you're about to purchase could become discontinued. Honestly, in terms of long-term value retention, the best thing that could happen to you is that you buy a Rolex that has been discontinued. Look at the Sea Dweller 4000. They made it for a whopping 3 years, discontinued it because they decided it was some kind of a mistake. Then they came out with the 43 millimeter Sea Dweller in its place. And so there's not all that many of that 4000 Sea Dweller out there because they only made it for 3 years. And if you look at the used market, the price of that watch is skyrocketing. Okay, it's a dinosaur. It was a short-lived dinosaur. Well, a Submariner, it's a long-lived dinosaur, this iteration, but gee, what if you buy the very last one? I don't see how that can be a bad thing. So, guys, you have to understand, there are certain flaws which I feel fall into the acceptable range. They are common, they are ordinary. Oh, heck, look at some of the most expensive and popular Rolexes. They're totally discontinued models. They're filled with flaws. And in fact, it is the flaws that make them valuable. So think in terms of an old rattly bracelet, aluminum bezel, old GMT, where the color has faded practically completely out of the Pepsi. Or an old beat up Submariner with a rattly clasp, a tin stamped dive extension, and a scratched up, faded bezel with kind of a scratchy acrylic crystal. I mean, those are worth so much more than what you are about to go get that's like flawless, perfect new, with that ceramic bezel and that nearly scratch-proof sapphire crystal. It's improved clasp with the glide lock. I gotta say, guys, I think we have to get our under control, okay? So there is a certain amount of OCD that I think falls within the acceptable range, but when it, like for example, you know, it would drive me completely nuts if I looked at my watch and I found a hair under the crystal or a piece of dust. I would be right back to the authorized dealer saying, fix this, you know, or give me a new one. And, you know, for most luxury brands, they will. All right, but in terms of these little infinitesimal, minuscule, tiny, teeny, little dinky, inky flaws, well, like I said, look down, fellas, and you know what I'm talking about. Look south. There's probably something not quite right there either, and we accept it. We love it. It's ours. It's part of us, and I think that's really what it needs to be with Rolex. Okay, I know this got a little crazy at the end. Please forgive me. Let's discuss this in the comments. I will be right there with you. What do you think? Is there such a thing as too crazy? I know we're all crazy. Don't deny it. But like, is there such a thing as too crazy? Not me. This is Goldberg. Peace out.